Hey guys, did you guys roll over? Did it roll y'all over? I wanted to wait a minute because sometimes if I start the live too fast, it does something wonky to Facebook, and I wanted to make sure Facebook jumped off okay. So, shouts out to all of our friends over on Facebook, all of our new followers and subscribers on Facebook. You guys are amazing. If you're not following me on Facebook, what are you waiting for? It's another free way to support your girl. Go ahead, follow me. It's just additional content that I post over there. I do go live over there as well. Yeah, it did do something weird. I didn't wait long enough. I don't know what the cadence is, but normally I don't go live back to back on Facebook like this, but it did something weird. Having trouble streaming. Okay, let me take this off and then I'll have to wait like 5 minutes. I think it's like if you go live too fast back to back cuz a lot of no offense to Facebook y'all, but sometimes some little weird stuff happens on Facebook, so they probably don't want I'm sure there's a reason. Let me not even make up a story as to why. It happens. Um Okay. All right, guys, let's get into it. And it looks like court today, girl, it didn't even last. It was like 2 hours and 20 minutes. So we're going to be caught up quickly, okay? Um Hold on a second. Let me share my screen. All right. All right, all right, all right, all right. Okay, let me just say this real quick. Um that way anybody who's just joining us for the first time regarding this topic or at all, number one, welcome. We're happy to have you. We are in court today in Fulton County, and this is a murder case. It's a murder case. It's a silly case. I mean, it's a serious case, but it was definitely very much avoidable. I'm going to just say it's a senseless killing amongst two guys that were basically friends. They were friends and they fell out over some bro code stuff, in my opinion. They fell out on some breakation of the bro code and a shootout ensued. One's dead and one's facing life without parole. Um, Interesting. We started watching it yesterday. We got all the way caught up between yesterday and today. So if you haven't seen it, um the lawyer here with the sunglasses, Miss Nicole Fagan, she is under indictment her damn self. Okay. She was a YSL attorney and she has been accused of advising her clients to get rid of evidence and all kinds of shadiness and improprieties, along with even they have accused her. Okay. They have accused her of even bringing drugs into the jail. Like she's accused of some shit, okay? But she's innocent until proven guilty, and she is able to continue practicing law. She's innocent until proven guilty, and ma'am is this guy's lawyer. Miss Nicole is Mr. Cordarra Tuitt's lawyer. And she's doing the best she can. That's how I'm gonna put it. She's doing the best she can, um, and we're on day 3. Okay. So if you need to know anything else, baby, just go ahead, get into the videos, and that's it. That's all. Okay. All right. That's our little update. Let's get into we're late for court. We are late for court. They started without us and they already finished for the day. So let's get into it, see what happened on day 3. Okay. Y'all ready? Everybody got their snack? I hope y'all got your snacks and y'all ready to go. Let's get into it. Oh, I'll put myself up later. Let me do it like this and then I'll once they no, I don't want to do it like that either. Let me put me over in the corner for a minute until they change the view. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Are we having witnesses? We're gonna have okay, let me you know what? Let me advise you guys. I'm gonna upload a little banner. I'm gonna put something over the screen because there are going to be, I'm gonna just warn you guys, this is the medical examiner, and there are going to be some autopsy photos. And I will cover the screen for y'all because I know, I mean, it's not for everybody. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's not for everybody, and I will just err on the side of caution when they get to these photos. We're just going to keep it cute. If you want to see, then I suggest going over to Judge McBurney's. Um, but in, uh, yeah, I think we're going to do that because I'm not sure how that's going to go. But yeah, there are going to be some autopsy photos. It's not bothersome for me, but for some of you guys, I know that that might be a little bit bothersome for y'all. So I get it. So we're going to err on the side of caution, and I'm going to probably put this up, okay, while they're doing that, okay? But y'all will still be able to hear the audio. If you want to see, um, I don't know what to do. Or maybe we'll make it small. Maybe when they do the autopsy photos, we'll make it small. That way it's, you know what I mean? I don't know if that's better. Is that better for y'all? Anyone who might have some feelings about the autopsy photos? Can I get a witness? Can I get a I don't want to see it, or they will show the pics of the victims, so please prepare yourselves. They will show the victim. Yeah, when they get to that part, um maybe I'll either have the window small, and if it's really just not good, okay, we'll make it small. Someone's saying covered. Um, like I said, right here at about 18 minutes in, yeah, it's a bit much. Uh, girl, we're gonna, yeah, I'll give you guys the link. I'm okay with seeing it. They don't bother me. Don't bother me. Okay. Whoever is, so Jay Jammin, I'm gonna say in about 20 minutes, um, just go get some coffee. Get some coffee. Go get a cool drink. But it's gonna be about 10 minutes of autopsy photos. Okay. All right. I might make it small because it's a bit much. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. If y'all were disturbed by, because I saw people talking about the crime scene photo where he was laying off in the distance. If that bothered you, this gonna bother you because there's bullet holes and everything for real. Okay. So I just wanted to be sensitive to that because this man did lose his life, and but it's a necessary thing. I don't think they're not showing it to be gratuitous. It's necessary because they're trying to get him justice, and they have to evaluate the photos to be able to discuss the murder, right? So it's not without cause, right? Okay. I'm loving Miss with the red hair. I like her. And she's wearing green. She's really playing up her red hair. This green that she has on today it's popping that red hair. And then there's Nicole Fagan, and then there's Adam Abate. Hi, one Jennifer. Jennifer, Jarvis was in court again today, girl, and so was a fiend. Girl, they were busy in Detroit today. Um, Girl, there's a couple of other cases I'm following in that area too. The couple with the foster care kids, um, that was a mess too. But yeah, Jarvis and Afeni had court today, boo. All right, let's get into it.
Ms. Rivers, you ready? Okay, let's get on the record in State versus Tuitt. It is 1:45 on Wednesday, the 8th. We have Mr. Tuitt in court with his lawyer, Ms. Fagan. Good afternoon to both of you. And we have our two prosecutors here. Deputy Gordon tells me all our jurors are here and ready to go. Ms. Fagan, did you have an opportunity last night or this morning to listen to the remainder of the interviews of the Forte mother and son?
Yes, sir.
Based on that, do we need to get either of them back here?
No.
Okay. So other than Mr. Tuitt, who may decide to testify right now, you're not envisioning calling any witnesses?
Right.
All right. And Mr. Abate, when we left yesterday, your plan was two more witnesses, coroner and ballistics expert. Is that still the case?
Or more.
Whatever it is, it's as long as they're here, we're good. Okay. Anything else we need to cover from the state before the jurors come in? Ms. Fagan?
No, Your Honor.
Before we bring them in, again, we are overlaying this trial with calendars that had already been scheduled. We're going to get through one witness and then we'll pause briefly because I need to call a calendar and take up a couple quick matters. Then we'll call the other witness, and then it sounds like the state will rest. So let's go.
All right, observe.
Thank you, Deputy Gordon. Everyone else should be seated. Happy Wednesday, jurors. It's apparently Green Day. You guys do it, well, a couple of you blew it, but there's a lot of green going on with this jury.
Had a meeting.
You had a meeting? Okay. St. Patrick's Day is not for a few months, but it's a good preview. Sure, there's some reason for that. Thank you all for being here. We are going to resume with the state's presentation of its case. And I'll ask Mr. Abate or Ms. Jones-Connor to call the state's next witness.
They would call Dr. Colin Hebert.
Raise your right hand. You swear affirm that testimony you'll give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help God.
Yes.
You don't want to see. And the state, you swear your name for the record.
It's Colin Hebert, COLINHEBERT.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hi.
Do you tell the jurors how you are currently employed?
I'm the Deputy Chief Medical Examiner at the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office.
And how long do you work with Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office?
About 3.5 years.
And I know it sounds kind of odd, but when you tell the jurors a little about what the medical examiner's office here in Fulton County does.
Sure. We investigate the deaths of those who die suddenly, violently, or unexpectedly. We help to identify unidentified people. And when we investigate those deaths, a lot of times we perform autopsies or post-mortem examinations to determine the cause of death and the manner of death.
And can you explain to the jurors, as a part of what you do with the medical examiner's office, what is forensic pathology?
Forensic pathology is a branch of medical subspecialty pathology. So pathology is basically the study of disease. So a lot of pathologists deal with living patients when we examine biopsies and stage cancer, determine if it's malignant or cancer or benign diseases. But forensics deals with people who have already died, and when we do the autopsies to determine the cause of death and the manner of death.
And can you tell the jurors a little bit about your educational background, the training that you received in order to work as a medical examiner at the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office?
Okay, so to become a medical examiner or a forensic pathologist after graduating college, you have to go to medical school. And then after graduating medical school, we do a residency program in pathology. And after that program, we do another year of training in forensic pathology.
And can you explain to the jurors over your number of years working with the medical examiner's office, approximately how many autopsies you performed while working at the medical examiner's office?
Sure. My training year in the fellowship, and then I worked for the Georgia Bureau of Investigation medical examiners for 6 years and Fulton for 3.5 years. So at that, up to now, about 3,500 autopsies.
At this time, the state's going to tender Dr. Adair as an expert in forensic pathology.
No objection.
No objection. All right. Dr. Hebert, you are qualified for purposes of this trial as an expert in the field of forensic pathology.
And Doctor, I want to direct your attention to around the time of August 9th of 2022. Were you working with the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office?
Yes.
And did you have the opportunity to perform an autopsy on Mr. Latavius Wright?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jurors the first steps that you as a medical examiner take when you receive a deceased person?
When someone's deceased in Fulton County, that death would be reported to our office, whether it's from the hospital or from maybe local law enforcement at the scene. So we accept the case, and then we begin the autopsy procedure preliminarily by taking photographs of the decedent at the scene. Then they are put in a remains or body bag and transported to our office. We'll take an X-ray of the body while they're still in the bag to look for any sorts of projectiles or bullets or skeletal injuries. Once that's done, we can open the bag and start to proceed with photographs of how the body is received before we manipulate anything or remove any clothing or any medical devices. Once that's done, we begin to photograph again and take notes of any injuries or identifying characteristics. That's the external portion of the exam, front to back, head to toe. And then once the external exam is complete, we begin the internal examination. With a Y-shaped incision on the chest and abdomen, we make an incision across the back of the scalp so we can access the brain and all the internal organs in the torso. And we examine each one of those individually. We can take tissue samples or fluid samples if needed for testing. And by the time we're done with the autopsy procedure, we can sometimes determine the cause of death at that time or the manner of death. If there's any lab or toxicology studies, sometimes we have to wait for those results to come to that conclusion. But that's overall basic way of doing it.
And when you say you can determine the cause and manner of death, can you explain to the jurors what those terms mean?
Sure. So the cause of death is self-explanatory. So it's the actual disease or injury that leads to the cause of to death. And the manner of death, which can be homicide, suicide, natural causes, undetermined or accidental. Those are the circumstances that lead up or surround the death.
And you explained before you told your the definition of what those terms meant, that you photographs that you detail that are taken throughout the process, and then the external and internal autopsy that are performed. With all of that done as it relates to this autopsy for Mr. Wright.
Yes.
And after you finished the autopsy of Mr. Wright, did you memorialize your findings and conclusions in a report?
Yes.
And that's something you do for every autopsy that you perform as it relates to your work at Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office.
Yes.
I want to show you what the State's Exhibits 101, then 102 through 35.
Okay, Exhibit 101 is a copy of the autopsy report for Mr. Wright. And 102 through 135 are copies of autopsy photos for Mr. Wright.
And it states that 101, start with your report, does it appear to be a fair and accurate copy of the report that you did memorializing your findings after performing the autopsy on Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And then as it relates to safety, there's 102 through 135. Those appear to be the photographs, copies of the photographs that were taken of the autopsy during the procedures that were performed on Mr. Wright.
Yes.
Prior to this time, the state pretender was remarked as state's exhibits 101 through 135.
No objection.
They're all admitted.
Now, Dr. Bear, before we go through some of the photographs and then get to your findings and conclusions, can you explain to the jurors as it relates to your work in performing autopsies on individuals who received gunshot wounds? Can you explain to the jurors what soot and stippling means and how it's important to what you do at the medical examiner's office?
Sure. So as a medical examiner, when we examine gunshot wounds, we would like to try to determine the entrance versus the exit wound, the range of fire, that's how far away the muzzle or the tip of the barrel is from the target, the direction of the wound path and the injuries that it causes. So when we mention soot and stippling, that's evidence of close range or intermediate or medium range of fire. So besides the bullet coming out of the gun, there's also burning or burnt flakes or fragments of gunpowder, black soot or smoke, and hot gases. So that's what we look for on the skin or the clothing to determine the range of fire if it was a close range gunshot wound.
When you say close range or intermediate range, and then I guess further distance, can you tell the jurors, do you have an approximate, are you able to be able to tell how far the muzzle of the gun is based on, let's say the term used is close range? Is there an estimation?
Roughly, yes. So the different ranges we use basically are contact. That's when the muzzle of the gun is pressed against the target. And then there's close range, which we'll say, which is between contact and 3 to 6 inches away. That's when we can see the black soot and gunpowder stippling on the skin or the clothing. And then medium or indeterminate range is when the soot has dissipated or the black smoke is dissipated, but the gunpowder fragments can still strike the skin or embed themselves in the skin. We can see that up to about 3 feet away. And after about 3 feet away, we call that indeterminate or distant range of fire.
Now, I want to show you what's been marked as state exhibit 102.
Okay, they're getting ready to put the pictures up. I'm going to do this. Let's do a slow roll to see, because it is a little disturbing. I'm not going to lie to you, okay? I mean, it does look like he's just laying,
While that's getting pulled up,
but
can you explain to the jurors in
I'm
state
saying
exhibit 102, we see a tag, in reference to Mr. Wright, well, since unique or specific case numbers. What is this and why is that important as it relates to the procedures you perform?
That photograph is generally the first photograph we take beginning at the beginning of every autopsy. So it's the sealed body bag. This red plastic seal with the wire goes through the loops of the zipper. So it can't be opened unless you break it. So this is how the decedent's body bag was sealed at the scene, and then it's not broken. The seal is not broken until we begin the autopsy. And on the
Yeah, right here. You can go back towards you. You'll hit stay muted.
sure.
Now that's your screen.
Thank you. So on the bag tag itself will be the date that this was sealed, the case number associated with the decedent, his name, some demographic information, the investigator's name, and the seal number.
And as a part of the procedures that you perform and taking, like we have here, identifying information of the defendant, can you tell the jurors during your autopsy, were you able to determine the height of Mr. Wright?
Yes.
The jurors, based on your report, what did you report the height of Mr. Wright to be?
We measured him at 69 inches in length, or 5'9".
And as we move on to State Exhibit 103, you talked about the seal not being broken of the body bag until the decedent here, Mr. Wright, arrives to the medical examiner's office. Is this a picture of Mr. Wright as is after the body bag has been opened?
That's right.
And in State Exhibit 104, can you explain to the jurors the number that we see at the bottom of the exhibit and the purpose of this photograph?
The case number is 22, so that's the year 2022, and 1,729 is the number of cases that were reported to the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office at that time. And this photograph is when we take the case number placard and place it underneath the chin for a standard identification photograph.
And
When they change the picture, I'll flash it so you can see it, but it's a little hard to look at. I mean, yeah, I thought I could take it, but I just kind of can't. So it's not you guys, it's me. But I'll flash it. Okay. Okay.
you explained to the jurors a little while ago, I guess the order in which photographs are taken as you do the procedures in an autopsy. You talked about the external autopsy that is performed. Can you tell the jurors, based on the procedures and what you observed during that external part of the autopsy, did you notice injuries as it relates to Mr. Wright, and how many did you notate?
Yes, he had 6 gunshot wounds.
And in your report, do you identify, I guess, the entry and exit, if there is one, as it relates to each gunshot wound? And do you do so in any specific order?
Not ever. So the way they're numbered is or just for convenience purposes, but they don't indicate the order of the shooting.
And are you ever able to determine the order in which somebody shot? If they have multiple gunshot wounds on their person or their body?
Rarely, yes, but in this case, no.
Now, I want to show you State Exhibit 109. And in State Exhibit 109, can you explain to the jurors what we're looking at as it relates to the chest area of Mr. Wright? And is this the first gunshot wound that you notated as A in your report?
It is gunshot wound A. So this is a gunshot wound entering the chest, and this is a contact range of fire. So where the muzzle of the gun is pressed against the chest.
And is it the right or left side of his chest?
It's on the right side of his chest.
And as we move to State Exhibit 110, is this a close-up of the gunshot wound on?
You don't want to
Mr.
see
Wright's,
this one, y'all.
right chest?
Yes.
You said that this was a press contact wound to the right chest. Can you explain to the jurors, in looking at State Exhibit 110, how you know
Yes.
that?
Friday Child, where were you? You just got here? So we had they are showing these photos, and the photos are part of the trial, obviously. So I'm not gonna leave them up because I mean I'm sitting here looking at it and I'm like, oh, and I normally can, girl, I watch surgery and everything, girl. you know, it's not horrible, but I don't want to leave this up like this. It's a bit much. Um, oh, it's not self-defense at all. It's not when I'm gonna just say after the first shot that it wasn't self-defense anymore. Okay. Once they go to another picture, I'll show it for a couple of seconds and I'll drop the link to Judge McBurney's and you guys can go if you really want to see it, then you guys can go, and watch. I just don't want to do too much. You know what I'm saying? Cuz I know it's shocking for somebody.
What that means to your conclusions and findings.
Sure. Overall, entrance wounds have more of a circular or cookie cutter hole puncher appearance. When the bullet's coming in straight and spiraling, it takes the tissue with it, as opposed to an exit wound. The bullet loses a lot of energy when it passes through the tissue, and it may begin to tumble, and it might exit sideways or backwards, and it's not rubbing the skin. It splits the skin on its way out. So most often the exit wounds look like a slit or a split-like appearance. So this has a nice circular shape, but what gives it away most for an entrance wound in a contact range is you can actually see a muzzle imprint or muzzle abrasion surrounding.
So he really he was able to get that gun super close to this man's body and popped him right in his lower chest.
The wound.
And based on your number of years of experience and the training you received, I just want to make sure we're clear. Does this, when you say it's a press contact wound, do you mean that the muzzle of the gun is actually pressed to the chest of Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Now,
You can see it's
as
like a
relates-
burn mark. There's a burn mark and then there's tissue. His topical, his skin, his outer layer, you could see where some flesh is gone and it just looks like a little bit burnt and sooty. Like they say that stippling and stuff. Yeah. It's like a burn on his
this,
flesh.
Entrance wound, were you able to follow, the trajectory path? Was there an exit wound?
Yes.
And is that what we're looking at? It states it's at 126.
Okay, this is much better. This is better. So these might be the exit wounds.
That is I'm sorry, no, that's another entrance wound.
Really?
Okay.
He shot him
You
in
see
the
where
back
it's
too?
up at the top.
With the ruler at the top left side, that's going to be the left side of the back at the top of the screen. That's actually an entrance wound. The
Mm.
exit is going to be on the right side of the back, this
Right
exit
here.
by my
Hmm.
finger.
And how are you able to determine that was the exit wound as it relates to the entrance wound on the right side of the chest?
I was able to follow the wound path as we did the internal examination through the organs, which went through the skin and soft tissue of the chest, the anterior right costal margin. That's where the rib margin is at the bottom of the chest. It went through the heart, the diaphragm, the liver, and the soft tissue and skin of the back, leading to that projectile on the bottom right side of his back. And this, I'm sorry, not projectile, the exit wound on the lower right side of his back. And it has that slit-like or split appearance.
And you talked earlier about, I guess that's part of your procedures, you're trying to determine is the pathway, the trajectory of the bullet. Were you able to determine, I know you mentioned earlier, front to back, the things of that nature. What were your findings as it relates to, I guess, trajectory that the bullet associated with this exit wound traveled through Mr. Wright's body?
All right, so the organs that I mentioned throughout the path, it leaves perforations or lacerations in all of those organs and is associated with hemorrhage. He had about 800 milliliters of blood in the right chest cavity or pleural cavity, and 50 milliliters of blood in the abdominal or peritoneal cavity. I'm sorry, for the direction, it's front to back and downward.
And states exhibit 105. We'll talk about before the photograph comes up, as it relates to, the gunshot that you labeled B. Can you tell the jurors, where that entrance wound was found, on Mr. Wright's body?
Okay, so gunshot wound B is a perforating gunshot wound on the right shoulder. So it's on the anterior or the front aspect of the shoulder here.
And it states that 106, is that a close-up of, the wound that you just described?
It is. It's a circular appearance. The skin is abraded or scraped on the margins from the bullet passing through. And there are some other abrasions or scrapes on the top left corner of the bullet, scraping the skin on its way in.
I know you said, gunshot wound A,
This is one thing I noticed. Like, look at the picture, guys. Look at his skin. It's like, I guess, I mean, I don't know, but I would imagine, I mean, you're frozen in time. So he obviously got goosebumps. You see how his skin is goosebumply? He died, like when he died, he had goosebumps, and I guess they don't, you know what I mean? Like, that was interesting to me to see the goosebumps, like that he, I don't know what happened, but that's interesting to see. I've never
were
seen
you
that
able
before.
to make a determination as relates to range of fire?
The victim was facing him, and then he fell forward, almost like in a downward dog in a way. Like he literally keeled over. Like if you go to today's video, when he got shot, he almost dropped from his hip down, like almost like if you were doing a downward dog from your hip and you drop down on your hands, and he collapsed. So it wasn't like he fell back or fell to the side. He literally like keeled over from the hip, right? Almost like he was going into a downward dog position, and he just laid flat. But the man shot him 6 times, y'all. That's terrible, right?
No, so this one is called indeterminate because there's no evidence of a close range or medium range of fire on the skin.
And doing your procedures, did you
The
associate or
next
find,
couple are
looking
bad, so I'm not gonna
relates to
show. Those
trajectory of
are,
this bullet and exit wound?
This one did have an exit
what do
wound
we,
also.
you know.
Can you tell the jurors, where did his, exit wound, or well, where,
Ooh.
that were the exit wound, or except for looking at the states of the 113?
That's a close-up of the entrance wound, and this isn't the exit
Hold on, you guys. My
scraping the
bad.
skin on its way in.
I know you said, gunshot wound A, the chest was a press contact wound.
We're still
As it
on this
relates to
one.
the
I hit the
second,
button by mistake. Okay.
gunshot wound, his right shoulder. Were you able to make a determination as relates to range of fire?
Cordero Truitt shot him up. He shot him up.
No, so this one is called indeterminate because there's no evidence of a close range or medium range of fire on the skin.
And doing your procedures, did you associate or find, looking, I guess, as relates
Right.
to the trajectory of this bullet and exit wound?
This one did have an exit wound also.
Okay. Can you tell the jurors, where did his, exit wound, or well, where was the exit wound?
It's going to be on the back of his right arm or the posterior aspect of his right arm.
That we're looking at here in 107, and then
This picture right here, you can just kind of see how stiff he is. I'm going to make this a smaller picture just because, just so y'all can see, but not to make it too gratuitous. But he's looking very stiff. Yeah. Okay.
a close up in 108.
Yes.
Now, can you tell the jurors, the next, gunshot wound that you notated in your report and doing the X?
You can see the goosebumps real good on this one. Hold on. Yeah, it might have been from adrenaline, fear, whatever. I don't know. But it's interesting that they don't go down. So it's like you're just frozen. You're frozen. You're basically like in your frozen state, right? Like you're whatever that moment in time when you pass, I guess that's it. So it's not gonna, you know.
autopsy of Mr. Wright.
Okay.
Right.
The next one is a perforating gunshot wound of the neck.
That we're looking at.
I've just never seen a
This picture, yeah.
body
So
in.
this is an
I've seen
entrance
a body
wound
in this
on
state,
the
but
left side
not
of the neck.
like this.
And it's indeterminate range of fire. There's no evidence of gunpowder or soot on the skin.
And as you continue to perform the autopsy, were you able to determine the direction or the trajectory of the bullet that entered?
Yeah, poor
into,
guy, right?
Mr. Wright's left side of his neck?
Yes, this wound went from left to right, back to front, and downward, and it injured the skin and soft tissue, the left common carotid artery, the oropharynx, and it exited just below the lower side of the jaw on the right side of the face.
And is that where the exit window, except for looking at states of 113?
That's a close-up of the entrance wound, and this isn't the exit wound on the jaw on the right.
He shot him in his face, y'all. I'm not gonna show it. It really kind of went through some fleshy part of his, like it went through kind of his jaw, but maybe it's a fleshy part because it went in one side and out the other. But he shot this man up in his face too. Not in his face, like his face is destroyed because you saw it wasn't, but down in his chin, in some of the meat on his chin. It's like, come on now.
Side, yes.
Seriously.
Now, you described some of the organs and the muscles and things
He literally killed him. Like this is not self-defense. This is I'm gonna kill you.
that the bullet hit. In layman's terms, what is the effect of the gunshot wound to his neck that exited out his right jaw?
This would have been a very lethal or highly lethal wound. It went through his common carotid artery. That's one of the major arteries
okay.
supplying blood to the head.
And just to double back in the gunshot when you had made the press contact wound to the chest, you mentioned a number of organs that bullet traveled through and damaged. Can you tell the jurors the effect of that, receiving that gunshot wound? I think you mentioned 800 milliliters of blood.
And it doesn't even look like it's that bad, but it might be something like what Charlie Kirk suffered. It's not all up on his neck like the way we saw Charlie Kirk, but if he's saying it, so however it went in, it went through his carotid artery. That might be how he ended up with all that blood in his chest and his stomach, in his lungs and his stomach. Because he said he's getting ready to talk about that in a second. But yeah, that might have. I mean, he got some bad shots.
His different cavities and his torso.
Yes, that gunshot wound in the chest is also a highly lethal wound. It did perforate the heart, liver, diaphragm, and was associated with a lot of bleeding.
Moving on to gunshot wound D in your report states that 115, is that a photo of an injured wound related to the gunshot wound?
Girl, he got him up under his arm. I'm gonna flash it real quick on a small scale. Hold on. He got him under his arm right here on the side of his neck. Oh, that's where it came out. So he shot him right here in the carotid artery, and then it went out on the other side right below his chin. So when I was saying he shot him in the chin, in the fleshy part of his chin, that's the shot right there that got him in the carotid, basically a Charlie Kirk shot, got him just like that. And it went through to the other side and came out like on the fleshy part of his chin. If you can see, his chin is really swollen right there. On the opposite side of that is the exit wound. So yeah.
Yes,
He shot him
gunshot
up.
wound D, perforating gunshot wound of the left axilla, and axilla is just a medical term for armpit. So this is the posterior or the back aspect of his left armpit. This is an indeterminate range of fire, so no evidence of gunpowder or soot on the skin.
And performing the autopsy. This is a close-up version of 115.
Yes.
And it states that 116, this injured wound, was there an exit wound associated with this gunshot wound?
Yes.
And as it relates to the exit wound, can you describe to jurors the path travel that this bullet took starting through the posterior armpit of Mr. Wright?
Sure. So this took a relatively shallow pathway through the skin and soft tissue. So you can see the entrance down just below the ruler, and then that passed through the skin and subcutaneous tissue, exited out of the deep middle armpit, and then it also grazed the front portion of his armpit on the way out.
And looking at this photo, is this the entrance wound that you're referring to at the bottom, on the left-hand side, right-hand side of the exhibit?
Yes.
And then this is the exit wound?
Yes.
And then this injury that we're seeing kind of at the top of the armpit or moving towards the chest, is this injury associated with a gunshot wound or something else?
It's a gunshot wound and would have been the terminal graze wound of that. After it exited the armpit, it just scraped the skin on its way up.
Kind of like a graze wound after it's exited from the armpit or the middle of the armpit of Mr. Wright's arm.
That's right.
Now, can you tell the jurors as it relates to the travel, path travel? Is it front to back, left to right?
This one is back to front, and it doesn't really take any upward or downward path or left to right. It's just basically back to front.
When you say back to front, can you explain to the jurors, what do you mean by that? Does that mean the person who, when the person being shot, the person actually has the gun and shoots and is behind them?
We don't know which way the body can be turned. We describe every gunshot wound or injury with the person standing or the decedent as if they were standing in the normal anatomic position. So that's standing straight up with the palms facing forward. So that's how we base every description of direction. So it enters, I can tell you the bullet enters the back of the shoulder and exits the armpit and scrapes the skin of the front of the armpit on its way out. But I don't know, if he was completely facing the opposite direction, because you can get the same injury just partially turning a certain way.
In a second, I'm gonna put up states at 126, but can you tell the jurors which gunshot is related to E in your report?
So that's a penetrating gunshot wound of the back, and that one is also similar to the first one. This one's close range, but not contact range of fire. And that's the one we saw earlier.
That states 126. Pulled up.
Yes.
Okay. And you said it's close range of fire. Can you explain to the jurors as soon as you put up the difference between your finding of close range of fire as relates to this back shot, the gunshot wound B in your report, and then gunshot wound A, how you know that's the press contact or the muzzle is pressed to the chest of Mr. Wright?
Right. So on this gunshot wound, it might be tough to tell unless you're right up close looking at the photo, but there is the presence of gunpowder stippling on the skin and black soot. As opposed to a contact range, we clearly could see the muzzle imprint and like circular abrasions underneath the bullet, the hole, which are part of the gun parts. So.
And the entrance is the one closest to that sticker on his back?
Yes, sir.
Now, can you explain to the jurors in the autopsy you performed, were you able to determine the pathway of travel of this projectile? Was there an exit?
There is, there is not an exit. The bullet was recovered, so it takes a back to front, left to right, and downward pathway. And it goes through the skin and soft tissue of the back, the lower lobe of the left lung, the 8th through 10th thoracic vertebrae and spinal cord, the lower lobe of the right lung, the diaphragm, the soft tissue of the right abdominal flank, and that's where the bullet was recovered.
And before we put up the next photograph, stated 121, can you kind of tell the jurors, you talked about pathway of travel and the parts of the body that it hit? You mentioned the vertebrae, 8 to 10 vertebrae, as well as the spinal cord, lobe of the left lung. Can you describe to the jurors the damage that would cause to an individual after receiving a gunshot wound that strikes all those areas?
Sure. So when the chest cavity is perforated, or where the lungs are, the pleural cavities, that generally causes the lungs to collapse. And then the bullet goes through the 8th through 10th vertebrae or the spine, and that also damages the spinal cord. So that would result in paralysis from that level down, everything below the injury. It then hits the lower lobe of the right lung. That would have likely caused the right lung to collapse. It goes through the diaphragm, which is one of the muscles that we use for breathing. And then it goes through the soft tissue of the right abdominal flank, which is just sort of the love handle area on the torso. And all of those together are associated with bleeding as well as it passes through all those organs. So he did have approximately 600 milliliters of blood in the left pleural cavity, and that contributes to the previous blood in the peritoneal cavity or the abdominal cavity that I mentioned earlier.
Okay. And it states that 121, tell the jurors, what are we looking at here?
So that's an incision that I made. I mentioned before we begin the autopsy, we take an X-ray of the body to help us find bullets and just to make sure there's no other injuries that we might miss that we can't see, like skeletal type injuries. So I had an idea already of where to look for the projectile. And since it's this close to the skin, you can generally feel it when you're doing your external examination. So to recover the projectile, I made that incision so we can find it and took a photograph of the bullet under the skin.
You described this as a penetrating gunshot wound to the back. Penetrating, another way of saying there is no exit wound.
Right.
Then the other wounds that you've been speaking about, A through D, you described as perforating. That how you are able to signify that it's got an entrance and an exit wound.
Yes, perforating is another way to say a through and through gunshot wound.
Now, as it relates to the recovery of the projectile, when she states the 136. You recognize stated at 136.
Yes.
Tell the jurors what it is and how you recognize it.
This is the projectile that I recovered from that side of his abdomen, and it's got the cased label with his identification number and name, and it's got my handwriting of where the bullet was recovered.
Your Honor, this time the state attorney was marked states the 136 and evidence.
No objection?
136 is admitted.
After there were not projectiles removed from Mr. Wright's body, can you tell the jurors, does the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office hang on to it? What happens to that item of evidence once it's taken from the body?
Once I recover the projectile, I put it in this projectile box. We take a photograph of it in the box. And then I personally package this box with red evidence tape around it, and it's sealed and submitted to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation for analysis. And once they're done with it, they send it back to our office, and then we send it to the local law enforcement, or the APD, I believe, or the Atlanta Police Department in this case.
Okay. And in I guess the last notation in the report as it relates to gunshot wounds and letter F, can you explain to the jurors what letter F, where that gunshot wound is associated to?
This was a perforating gunshot wound of his left hand. That
We're looking at states 128.
Yes, so this is the entrance wound on the dorsal or the posterior aspect of his hand if he's standing with the palms outward.
Based on your observations of the procedures you performed, were you able to make a determination like you did on the others as it relates to range of fire?
Yes, this one is a close range of fire because this gunshot wound has gunpowder stippling and black soot surrounding the wound.
And can you describe to the jurors, as you said, what perforating is, the pathway or the trajectory that this bullets traveled through the hand of Mr. Wright?
So this perforated through the skin and soft tissue. It fractured two of the bones in his hand and exited the palm of his hand.
That's what we're looking at, states at 130.
Yes. So it's down.
Here. So next one. And as it relates to injuries that you observed and notated in your report, it's the gunshot wounds. Were those all of the wounds that you notated and observed during the autopsy of Mr. Wright?
That was it for the gunshot wounds, and he also had an abrasion or a scrape on the back of his right shoulder.
And in States Exhibit 131, is this just a photograph of States Exhibit 136, the projectile you discussed?
That's right. Correct.
Then, as part of the autopsy procedures, once Mr. Wright, the bag is removed from the body, do you also take photographs of any article of clothing or items that he had in his pockets around his person?
We do, yes.
That's what we're looking at in the series of photographs, States Exhibit 132 through 135.
Yes.
And at the conclusion of the autopsy, Mr. Wright, can you tell the jurors you stated earlier the cause of death was gunshot wound to the torso?
In this case, it's multiple gunshot wounds is the cause of death.
And then, based on the procedures that you performed, can you tell the jurors were you able to determine a manner of death relates to Mr. Wright?
The manner of death is homicide.
And after memorializing all of your observations and conclusions and findings in your report, it says that 101, that completes your role and the part that you played as a result of the autopsy of Mr. Wright.
Yes.
Further questions at this time?
Ms. Fagan, do you have questions for Dr. Hebert? Okay.
Hi.
With your, when you were doing your evaluation, did you ever get an opportunity to compare the injuries to a surveillance video?
No, I didn't.
And when you indicate a case as a homicide, you mean death at the hand of another, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
But not a legal term between murder or self-defense?
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Any redirect?
There you are.
Any questions from the jurors for Dr. Hebert? All right, take your time, write them down. Deputy Gordon will get them.
Those autopsy pictures had me shook. They had me shooketh. Whew. Y'all, we're gonna. Do I have these on 120?
So Dr. Hebert, do you know if any toxicology work was done on anything that may have been samples taken from Mr. Wright?
There was no toxicology performed.
Is that because you decide it shouldn't be done, or because law enforcement didn't request it, or why? Is it remarkable? And if it's not remarkable, why is that?
In this case, it's something that I decided I did not order toxicology testing on a case like this because it does not directly contribute to the cause of death.
If law enforcement had asked you to do it, is that a function that your office performs, or it's solely at the doctor's discretion?
We generally will accommodate law enforcement or attorneys if they do request it, or family members even, if they request toxicology,
Okay.
even if we don't think it might contribute to the death. But if it is requested, it's pretty rare. We'll just do it.
Were any of the 6 gunshot wounds survivable, assuming that Mr. Wright sought medical attention and it was available pretty quickly?
Sure. Certainly the gunshot wound to the hand could be survivable. A lot of gunshot wounds almost, I shouldn't say almost all, a lot of gunshot wounds can be potentially fatal, whether it's long-term effects like infections or you can get blood clots. You know, if someone shot in the leg, 2 weeks later, they can get a blood clot that travels up to the heart and they can die of a pulmonary embolism. And that would be a delayed homicide. But in this case, the gunshot wound to the hand is survivable. The gunshot wound of the left armpit is potentially survivable. And that's about it.
Mr. Abadi, do you have any follow-up based on the discussion I just had with Dr. Hebert? Ms. Fagan?
No.
All right, doctor, I appreciate your time. You are excused. You can take with you whatever you brought. Please leave everything else right there.
Thank you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break. I think the state has only one more witness, but I have some people in court who are here for a calendar that was supposed to happen at 1 that got overlaid by this trial. So we took care of one witness. I think the state has one more. We'll get you back out here shortly for that witness, and then we'll see what the state's going to do after that. Please don't talk about the case back in the jury room. Or do any outside research. We will see you shortly. Thank you.
All right, sure.
So it will start, and I don't, who's the gentleman in custody if there's a trial? If it's a plea, we can do that virtually, so we don't need to disrupt his situation. But we wouldn't be able to take the plea. Sorry. Then we could take care of things here. Franklin County's warrant, the probation warrant, was
Damn, Nicole sitting up there yawning and everything. Okay.
so on the 14th. How about this? You work with Ms. Nelson. Get back on the record if we bring your client out. Mr. Abadi, state ready?
That's good.
Okay, can we bring Mr. Tuitt out, please? So let's never again put a trial on top of a bunch of calendars we already have.
I take ownership.
Thank you, Margaret.
That team at Bernie Mitchell did it.
We did it. It was fine. I'm just saying.
To get through.
All right, Missouri. All right, Missouri.
Oh, my bad.
Mr. President.
Gordon, thank you, jurors, for your patience. Mr. Abadi, next witness, please.
Abby Coleman.
You face me and raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm that the testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Lily in my seat, can you state your straight name for the record?
Good afternoon. My name is Abby Holman. That's ABBYHOLMAN.
Hey, good afternoon, Ms. Holman.
Hi.
Can you tell the jurors how you are currently employed?
So I am currently employed at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation in the Division of Forensic Sciences in the Firearm and Toolmark section.
And how long have you worked with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation with GBI?
Just over 4.5 years.
And can you tell the jurors in the 4.5 years you have been employed with the GBI, have you always worked in the firearms and ballistics and tool marks section?
Yes, I have.
And can you explain to the jurors a little bit about your job, duties, and responsibilities as a member of that section of the GBI?
Sure. So as a firearm examiner in that section, my main duty is to determine whether fired ammunition components, this could be bullets or cartridge cases, were fired from a particular firearm. If a firearm is not submitted with a case, is to determine what type of firearm those bullet or cartridge cases could have possibly been fired from.
Now, can you tell the jurors your educational background and some of the training that you've received in order to do everything you just described?
Yes, so I have a Bachelor of Science in Forensic Science from the University of Tampa. Then after joining the GBI, I went through a 20-month in-house training program that trained me in all the areas that we provide services in. So this included firearms, their manufacture, operation, and design, as well as ammunition. And then we also provide serial number restorations, muzzle to target distance determinations, and mark analysis. Then after that 20 months, I went through a 7-month supervised casework period where I was working cases under the direct supervision of another qualified scientist. And after those 7 months, I was then an independent examiner working cases on my own.
And the last 4.5 years, once you became an independent examiner, can you tell the jurors approximately how many cases have you worked or that you've completed by analyzing ballistics evidence that you described?
I don't have a exact number. It's around 150 cases.
Okay. And during the last 4.5 years that you worked with the GBI and completed the analysis you described, have you testified in court as an expert in firearms?
Yes, I have.
And Your Honor, at this time, the state will tender Ms. Abby Holman as an expert in firearms and ballistic and true mark analysis.
No objection.
All right, Ms. Holman, you are qualified as an expert for the purposes of this trial in the field of firearms and ballistics tool mark analysis.
Now, can you tell the jurors how you're able to determine how bullets and cartridge cases are fired from a particular firearm, kind of what you described earlier about what you did?
Sure. So the first thing I'm going to do when I get evidence is look at the class characteristics of a firearm if I have it and of the evidence. So the class characteristics are determined by the firearm manufacturer prior to the making of the firearm. So these can be the same across many different manufacturers, and they're going to be different for bullets and cartridge cases. For example, the class of bullets, a bullet is going to go typically down a rifled barrel in a pistol. That rifling is a series of cut or impressed lands and grooves. It is going to go at a certain twist. It can go left or right. That's a class characteristic. And how many of those lands and grooves is going to be a class characteristic. You can have 7, you can have 5. And then the width of those lands and grooves, if they can be measured, are also a class characteristic. So that's what we're looking at for bullets. And then also caliber, that's just the size of the cartridge that that firearm is chambered for. So if you have a 9mm firearm, you can shoot 9mm cartridges in it, and a cartridge is just a single unit of unfired ammunition. So the other part of that class characteristics is going to be cartridge cases. So the cartridge case is going to be what's left over after the bullet leaves the barrel. This is going to back up against what we call the breech face, and the breech face of that firearm can be manufactured different ways according to the manufacturer. It can leave parallel marks on there. It can leave arched marks. You can be granular. So we're looking at those. And then the firing pin will come through the breech face as well. It's going to hit the primer that's on the bottom of that cartridge. That's going to ignite the gunpowder in the bottom of the cartridge. There'll be an expansion of gases. That bullet is then going to go down the barrel. So that firing pin can be different shapes. It can be hemispherical, it can be elliptical, and then the actual aperture that it comes out of can be different shapes. So you can have For example, like a teardrop shape, kind of like a pear. It could be circular. So we're looking at all of those different shapes to determine, can this even be fired from this firearm based on those different manufacturing processes. So if they have the same class, I'm going to go ahead and either test fire my firearm so I can have test fires to evidence to look at, or I'm going to compare evidence to evidence. So we're looking at individual characteristics at that point underneath a comparison microscope. So a comparison microscope is simply two biology microscopes put together with one optical bridge. So I can see a test fire on my left stage and evidence on my right stage, and I can put those together so I can compare these individual characteristics microscopically. So those individual characteristics are incidental to the manufacturing process of all of the parts that are put into the firearm. So these are going to be microscopic imperfections that are left on the bullet and the cartridge case during the firing process. And that's what I'm looking at, the agreement between those individual characteristics to determine, was this bullet or cartridge case fired from this firearm?
Okay, and I want to kind of break that down just a little bit because you said a whole lot as it relates to it's what your analysis entails. But I know you first talked about the actual class characteristics, which it sounds like a manufacturer that produces any caliber gun, let's say a 9mm, that all of the handguns, once they fire, have the exact same class characteristics, right?
Yes.
And then you talked a little bit about individual characteristics and their incidental imperfections that are caused during the manufacturing process. Is that kind of like fingerprints for a human being?
Yeah, you can think of it. Yeah, as that, yes.
And does any two firearms, they're gonna have the same or create the same individual characteristics as it relates to the markings that they leave in fire bullet?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. Now, can you tell the jurors a little bit about the difference between a revolver and a pistol as it relates to the importance for your analysis?
Sure. So a revolver and pistol are both considered handguns. The main difference between a revolver and a pistol is that a pistol is going to automatically extract and eject that cartridge case from the chamber of the firearm. With a revolver, you have a revolving cylinder that pushes into the firearm. You cannot automatically eject and extract those cartridge cases once you have fired them, so you have to manually take them out.
And can you tell the jurors, I know you talked a little bit about rifling. Can you tell the jurors how rifling plays to your analysis for individual or class characteristics? You do me a favor, you got kind of a light voice. Could you speak up a little bit for us?
Yes. Could you repeat the question?
Yes, I'm sorry. How is rifling, or talk about rifling, how is that important as it relates to the analysis that you just described, whether it be related to class characteristics or individual characteristics?
So rifling, we can have different types of rifling. Conventional rifling, you can measure those lands and grooves. They have a bottom and top shoulder. We have polygonal rifling, which does not have any shoulders. So those are two completely different manufacturing processes. And then we can also have Glock marking barrel. Those have a shoulder, but polygonal in the middle. It's kind of a blend of both. So if you have a firearm that's conventionally rifled and you have a bullet from evidence that's polygonally rifled, it could not have been fired from that firearm because those class characteristics are different.
Okay. And then I guess you mentioned that you're looking to see if a specific bullet or cartridge was fired from any particular firearm. Can you tell us how are you actually able to make that determination when you have a firearm?
Yeah, so we're looking at those individual characteristics. So if I'm looking at a cartridge case, for example, I'm going to look at those breech face marks and compare them together to see what agreement is there between those breech face marks.
Okay. And as it relates to any individual case that you are working or completing, can you tell the jurors how do you receive the evidence when you're working a case GBI?
So typically I receive evidence either from an evidence receiving technician or from a firearms technician. They go down to the evidence receiving section and get our evidence for us and then bring it up. It's either put in our locked vault in our section or brought immediately to me. And then I have a locker in my office that I can put it in when I'm not working on it.
And when you receive evidence, can you explain to the jurors how it is logged within the system of GBI? Is it given any sort of unique case number so it can be tracked?
Yes, so every time we get evidence received into the lab, all of the evidence that is part of that case will receive a barcode with the Division of Forensic Science case number on it. That is how we keep track of the chain of custody. We will scan each item to a location or to a person.
In other instances, in which you're completing your testing, that you receive, evidence, let's say, on one date as relates to a case you're working, and then later down the road, you receive additional evidence, for testing.
Yes.
Okay. And when you receive that additional evidence for testing, does that evidence, receive the same unique GBI or DOFS case number that, was assigned to the, I guess, initial or the first items of evidence that you received as it's related to that case?
Yes.
Now, can you tell the jurors, as it relates to DUFS case number 2022-1022-817, did you receive evidence, or what evidence did you receive?
So I received a 9mm bullet from the Fulton County Medical Examiner's office, and then I received a Sky 9mm pistol, 6 9mm cartridge cases, and 9 9mm cartridges from the Fulton County DA's office.
And did you receive the projectile or the bullet from the medical examiner's office first?
Yes, I did.
And when you received the bullet, did you perform an examination or an analysis, or do an analysis on that ballistics evidence?
Yes, I did.
Each time you do an analysis, do you memorialize your conclusions in a report?
Yes.
That's something you do for all cases that you work and eventually complete.
Yes.
And did you do that as it relates to this case, the 2022-1022-817 case number?
I did.
And I will take the remark to say to the 137. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And tell the jurors how you recognize that and what it is.
So this is the first report I rendered in this case. It has the unique Division of Forensic Science case number at the top and also my signature at the bottom.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors the, I guess, the date that report has on it for when your conclusions were submitted or published?
So this report was released on March 20th, 2023.
Can you tell her, this time around in state lieutenant was marked states 137 into evidence?
Any objection to 137?
No objection.
Admitted.
And states 136 was previously been admitted into evidence. Is that the projectile that you received from the Fulton County Medical Examiner's office?
Yes, it is.
And can you tell the jurors when you received that projectile, kind of the first step that you took as it relates to your analysis for that item of evidence?
Since I only had this item of evidence at this time, what we do is we try to give a determined type weapon statement. So what manufacturers could this bullet possibly have been fired from? So I would go ahead and log all of the class characteristics of this bullet, and then we'll go ahead and we'll use a database that is provided to us by the Association of Firearm and Toolmark Examiners. We essentially plug all of those class characteristics of the bullet into a database, and it will give us back a list of potential firearm manufacturers that could have fired this bullet.
And can you tell the jurors, along with the unique case number that's assigned or given to this item of evidence, did you assign a specific kind of item number that is specific just to the GBI?
Yes.
And in this case, can you tell the jurors what item number in the previously mentioned GBI case number is the item in 136?
It is item number 2.
And can you tell the jurors after performing the analysis you described and attempting to determine the, I guess, the type of firearm, the manufacturer's firearm that fired the bullet, were you able to come to any sort of conclusions?
Yes, I gave a list of what firearms could have possibly fired this firearm.
And we're gonna publish states, your report states that 137 in a second. Can you tell the jurors in place of the list of potential manufacturers of firearms that fired any bullet that you received? Can you tell the jurors how you used that list to make the determination that you ultimately do?
So we ultimately pick firearms that we are used to seeing in the section. So anything that we commonly see, we're going to put there, but it is not an all-inclusive list on our report. It could be something else that is not on this report.
And I guess I should ask a better question. How do you, when I guess, analyzing the actual projectile that you see, how do you then take that, once you analyze on the projectile, the bullet you received, and compare it to the list that you just described? How do you come up with the manufacturer that potentially fired that gun? Is it the class characteristics? Is it individual characteristics? How are you going to do that?
Yes, it's the class characteristics. So how many lands and grooves there are, what twist are they going at, what is the caliber of the bullet, and what kind of rifling does it have?
Okay. And as it relates to the conclusions that you came to as a result of your analysis and then comparing the list, can you tell the jurors what you were able to determine or find?
Yes, so it was a 9mm bullet and is consistent with being fired from Bursa, FIE, Glock, H&K, IMI, Car Arms, and Walther 9mm pistols.
And are all those handguns?
Yes,
Now, later this in 2023, in July, did you receive additional evidence for analysis as it relates to this same case?
yes, I did.
And can you tell the jurors what evidence you recall receiving?
So I received 6 9mm cartridge cases, a Sky 9mm pistol, 9 9mm cartridges.
And I want to show you the presented evidence as states in 83, and then states exhibits 82, A through F. And tell me if those are the items of evidence that you just described that you received.
Yes,
Okay. And can you tell the jurors after receiving those items, did you perform any sort of analysis?
yes, I did.
And after performing your analysis, were you able to come to any findings or conclusions as it related to this evidence?
Yes,
Did you memorialize that in a report similar to the one that we've seen already in 6-137?
I did.
I want to show you what's the mark just states exhibit 138. Feel that there's no, after looking at it, do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell the jurors how do you recognize it?
So it has the Division of Forensic Science case number that's associated with this case, and then I have my signature at the bottom of the report as well.
Okay, and is this the additional report with your conclusions and findings as it relates to the evidence that you received for this case?
Yes,
This time around, the state pretender was been marked as exhibit 138 into evidence.
No objection?
It's admitted.
Now, Ms. Holman, can you explain how the analysis you did with the additional evidence you utilized your prior conclusions that you found about the 9mm projectile or bullet that you received in the autopsy?
yes. So what I'm going to do is I looked at the class characteristics again of the firearm and the bullet. So they are different class characteristics. This bullet is polygonally rifled and this firearm is conventionally rifled. So those are 2 different manufacturing techniques. So this bullet was not fired from this firearm. So then I had these 6 cartridge cases. They were all the same class. So I went ahead and did a microscopic comparison of those cartridge cases, and they were all fired from the same firearm and are consistent with being fired from a Glock 9mm pistol. And then different class characteristics for the cartridge cases to the firearm as well. This has an elliptical firing pin for the cartridge cases, and the firearm has a hemispherical firing pin. So again, 2 completely different manufacturing processes.
Okay, and I want to show you with the mark that states exhibit 139. Can you tell the jurors if you recognize states exhibit 139, and if you do, what is states exhibit 139?
Yes, I do. This is agency test fires that I received with the firearm.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors, are those test fires that were fired from states exhibit 83?
Yes, according to the packaging.
And at this time around, the state pretender was marked as states exhibit 139 into evidence.
No objection?
The test fires, 139, are admitted.
Now, can you explain to the jurors the importance or the reason where the test fires, state 139, were fired from the pink handgun? how those, as you utilize those in your analysis or comparison of the shell casings that were collected from the crime scene and stated that it's 82 AUF.
So I actually didn't open these. We don't compare agents who test fires to anything since we didn't test fire them ourselves. But I can tell just by looking at the firearm with my eyes that they're different manufacturing processes. So there is no need to look at this to compare it to the cartridge cases.
And you said in doing your analysis, looking at the 6 shell casings, that you were able to make the determination that they were not, none of the 6 were fired from the pink 9mm handgun in States Exhibit 83.
Correct.
And can you, I know you mentioned briefly, but how are you able to make that determination based on what you know about the firearm and what you can observe and see in the class individual characteristics for the 6 shell cases? But let me see.
So those 6 shell casings all share the same class characteristics. So it had an elliptical firing pin with a rectangular aperture. This firearm has a hemispherical firing pin with a circular aperture. So again, those are 2 totally different manufacturing processes.
Okay. And as it relates to, you said you were able to determine that that gun didn't fire the 6 shell casing, but you were able to determine that those 6 shell casings were all fired from one gun.
Yes.
And how are you able to make that determination without a firearm?
So I'm just going to be comparing evidence to evidence. So I'll have an evidence cartridge case on my right and an evidence cartridge case on my left, and then I will compare microscopically those in individual characteristics at that microscopic level. So we're looking at breech face marks, we're looking at that firing pin impression that it actually makes. There are individual characteristics within that firing pin impression. So we're just looking at individual characteristics to see what agreement does exist between all of these cartridge cases.
And based on your analysis and your training and experience, can you tell the jurors, were you able to make a determination as it relates to, it's a list like you did with item number 2, which is the projectile from the autopsy, as to the type and manufacturer of the firearm that would fire those shell casings, cartridge casings?
Yes, so we have an in-house breech face database. So we're going to plug in all of the class characteristics of those cartridge cases into the database, just how I did with the bullet. It's just an in-house one. So we're going to have the firing pin shape, we're going to have the aperture shape, we're going to have what type of breech face marks there are. And then we also have the extractor and ejector. So the extractor is just a hook in the firearm that will take it out of the chamber of the firearm. The ejector will kind of kick that cartridge case out of the firearm. So those are at different locations on the cartridge case and they're different shapes as well. So I'm going to plug all of that into our in-house breech face database and it'll give me back a list with pictures and we have to choose a photo that is consistent with what I received in evidence.
And after you did that, can you tell the jurors your determination in comparison with that list?
So all of those cartridge cases are consistent with being fired from a Glock 9mm pistol.
And now, are you able to compare the autopsy bullet in State Exhibit 136 to the cartridge cases that are found in State Exhibits 82 through F?
No.
So there's why not?
So the bullet interacts with the rifling in the barrel of the firearm and the cartridge cases interact with the chamber of the firearm. So they're interacting with 2 completely different parts of the firearm. And also if there were any marks from the bullet that kind of came out when it was scraping against the cartridge case, those are going to be overtaken by the marks by the rifling.
But do you recall earlier you referenced the list of potential firearms that would have fired that projectile was a Glock 9mm. One of the are on that list.
Yes, it was.
Okay. Now, you mentioned you also received, I guess, other unfired or unspent 9mm bullets.
Yes.
And can you tell the jury were those bullets found within the magazine of State's Exhibit 83?
I would have to look at my bench notes. I believe there is a note on the packages that I received that one was in the chamber and the other ones, the 8, were in the magazine.
Okay, I guess the better question would be, all of the unspent bullets that you referenced earlier, they were related to the pink firearm.
Yes.
And if you open states that at 83 are those items found inside of the firearm.
Yes, they are.
And just for clarity purposes, the items that you analyze or looked at, is your conclusion that all of the items listed evidence that you received related to the scene, as well as to what was removed from the victim in this case during autopsy, none of them were fired from the firearm that before you states exhibit 83?
Correct.
Nothing further from the state.
Ms. Fagan, do you have questions for Ms. Holman?
Yes, just a few. And the pink firearm, that firearm ejects shell casings to the right and rear, correct?
Typically it would, yes.
So if somebody is along the edge of a stairwell, if that firearm went off, the shell casings would have ejected to the right and to the rear, right?
It depends on the shooter's position, how the shooter is holding the firearm, what is around the shooter when they're shooting the firearm. A lot of different things can affect where that cartridge case goes once it's ejected out of the firearm.
And the pink firearm, you also received the bullets that were in that firearm, correct?
I received cartridges, yes.
And you would agree that for that gun to have been full, it had a capacity to hold 3 more bullets.
I received 9 cartridges and it can hold 11 plus 1. So 1 in the chamber, 11 in the magazine. So yes.
Thank you.
Any redirect?
Did you receive any evidence that I guess allowed you to come to the conclusion that that gun had been fired on August 7th, 2022?
No.
Nothing further.
Questions from the jurors? No? Thank you, Ms. Holman. You can you grab your binder, leave all the evidence. Thank you. Mr. Abadi, next witness.
Your Honor, I don't have any additional witnesses. I just have, I want to tender states that it's 140 and 141. They're both self-authenticating documents. They're certified copies of convictions for this defendant, Mr. Cordarra Tuitt. Stated that it's 140 is.
Have you shown 140 and 141 to Ms. Fagan?
I have, but I will show the Commissioner.
Okay. Before you start talking about what they are, just make sure she's seen those.
No objection to 140. Yes, and a quick approach on 141.
How about this? If you don't object to it conceptually, it can be admitted. There may need to be something redacted from it.
Yes.
And that was one reason why I was asking Mr. Abadi not to start saying that they were. There may be things that he doesn't need to describe, but they'll still have the necessary evidentiary value given their connection to charges in the indictment.
Yes, sir.
So I will admit 140 and 141. 141, we can talk outside the presence of the jury about whether something needs to be redacted. And Mr. Abadi, as I understand it, I'm not taking away your narration. You can talk about it as you see fit. 140 corresponds to the allegation in count 7 of a conviction from the Superior Court of Cherokee County.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And then 141 is the conviction that is referenced in count 8, which is a case out of this court, not meaning AD, but Superior Court of Fulton County.
That is correct.
Okay. Anything more you want to get into the record about what those two things are?
No, Your Honor.
All right. And with that, does the state rest?
Yes, Your Honor. They're admitted.
They are. No, both are admitted. I just said that 141 is admitted subject to a discussion about possible redactions outside the presence of the jury.
Thank you, Judge. Yes, at this time, the state of Georgia rests.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at another break point. We've had a lot of break points today. Normally, those two witnesses would have testified back to back, but I had this other calendar that been scheduled. I now need to engage the lawyers in a number of topics. By the time we're done with that and we then discuss the jury charge that I need to give you tomorrow, we would be late enough that only one side would be able to give a closing argument today. And the lawyers generally don't like that because whoever goes first, you go to bed, you forgot about what they said, and you hear from the other side tomorrow and like, oh, I just heard that side. So I suspect their preference is to have closing start first thing tomorrow morning, but there may yet be a presentation from the defense. And I need to talk with Ms. Fagan about that outside your presence. So I'm gonna have you go back to the jury room. It may be in a few minutes that Deputy Gordon shows up and says, hey, you can go home. I won't make you shuffle all the way back out here. I'm gonna give you the operating instructions right now. You know the routine. If we don't see each other again today, no outside research. You did your inquiry of the witnesses through these many questions. And don't talk about the case with other folks. Even though the state has rested, you don't know if there's going to be a presentation from the defense. None is required, no burden on the defense. You haven't heard closings, and most of all, you haven't heard the law that you must apply. So you're operating in this legal vacuum. You may have received all the evidence, and then you need to figure out, well, did the state meet its burden? And we'll talk about that, what the law is, when I address you after the closings. So the variable is there going to be a presentation from the defense? I'll get that shortly. If there is, you're coming back out here. If there's not, Deputy Gordon's going to have you go home. And I would like you all back here by 9:15 tomorrow. Jury room will be open early. K-cup machine will be ready for you early, but by 9:15 tomorrow so that we can get started. Again, we need all 13 of you here to get rolling. You've been phenomenal about being on time. Often with trials, there's a juror who gets that reputation of like, hey, number 7 did it again. And the others are like, where are you guys? We can't start because you're not here. But that hasn't been happening. We have, and mostly I, because of these other calendars, have been the reason why you've been waiting to get started. So 9:15 tomorrow, if you don't come back out here, okay? Any questions about that? No? Back in the jury room, be at ease. And I'll have Deputy Gordon come to you in a second.
Jury.
All right, you guys. Okay. We didn't see any faces. We didn't see any faces. We didn't see anything. The judge still had his camera on. So, anywho. I guess they're going to get started on instructions and all of those fun things.
Not your lawyer about your. Let's talk about I'd like to talk about 2 things, then we'll add to the list anything else. Stipulate that it's a qualifying felony. Then, thank you. Coming out, Mr. Body?
Yeah.
All right, that was it from you think needs.
Fine.
I'll drop the
The
link if
computer
you want to watch.
We
will do all the closings
jury
before we break for-
instructions. I'll drop the link for you guys. So if you guys want to go watch the autopsy, well, not the autopsy photos, like in their full glory, feel free. If you want to watch this, I'm gonna let y'all go. It's been a long. We spent the whole day, but we're caught up. We did the 3-day in a 2-day, really 2.5 days, because we started late yesterday. You guys are amazing, but I think you guys already know that, so I don't really have to tell you. I think that's it. That's all. I will see you guys later. Make sure your notifications are set. Make sure that you're subscribed to this channel. And I'll be back. I'm coming. Daddy's getting ready to walk in the door. They heard the garage. They heard the car pull up. They heard everything leading up to him walking through the door, and they're going crazy. But the one you heard, that's Lammy. Lammy is super duper vocal. He goes crazy when his dad comes home. He's you would be surprised. You would think Portia would be the one with the high pitched voice. It's Lammy. Lammy is so happy when his dad comes home. So, and I got to go get in that kitchen, y'all. It's time for me to get on kitchen duty. Okay. All right, you guys, hit me up in the comments if you need me. Or just want to talk to me. You don't have to need me, actually. You can just say hi. Hey girl. Whatever. Okay. All right, you guys, have a wonderful evening. I'll see y'all later. I might dip through. You never know. I'll be in the comments. I'll be on Instagram. I will be on Facebook. Come holla at me. I'll see you guys. I'm somewhere in these bushes, and I'll be cooking for like the next hour or two. So after that, I'll be in the comments. All right. Okay, y'all. Take care. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.